Hello, everyone in my channel. I'm glad to meet you. So let you know that listening is the most important stage for learning any language, and by hearing you can learn pronunciation, memorizing words with repetition. It will save you time and effort, in addition to not being bored. And to achieve this, you only have to follow me. I want to inform you that there are many voices that will participate with me in this video. Let's begin.
Welcome everyone, I'm Julie Fleur, and welcome to the new podcast to learn English series, A Better World. In each episode, we're going to examine one of the big ideas of our time and lifestyle and thought, and some of the key vocabulary associated with it, to see what different people are doing to create a better world. Okay, so you're living minimally, eating ethically, and shopping sustainably, but are you ready to go off-grid? Let's take a look at off-grid living in this final episode of A Better World. Off-grid living is living independently without relying on public utilities. The phrase off-grid traditionally refers to being disconnected from the electrical grid, but in practice it also includes other utilities like water, gas, and sewer systems. If you live in an off-grid home, you must be able to supply your own energy and water, as well as grow your own food and process your own waste and wastewater. This lifestyle is definitely not for the faint of heart. And yet, on-grid life is still a luxury in some parts of the world, and even where it's taken for granted, you only have to look back 100 years to see it was a privilege enjoyed by the rich. Even in so-called developed countries, many working-class homes didn't have full indoor plumbing or even electricity until the 1940s. So, let's have a close look at off-grid living and see if we could handle it in 2023. Starting with electricity, you probably use electricity to light your home, cook, keep yourselves entertained, run household appliances, and, depending on your location, maybe heat or cool your home. If you live off-grid, you need alternative power sources, usually a mix of wood for heating and cooking, propane for cooking, a petrol generator, and, if you're lucky, solar power to charge up batteries to run your computer and phone. But energy is suddenly scarce and requires effort, so you're much more careful with it. You probably don't waste it on Netflix, and you're most likely to go to bed and get up with the sun to avoid the need for lighting. You won't really have time for typical entertainment anyway, because so much of your life will be taken up with everyday living. Similarly, water, you probably collect rainwater for many things, but you also need an underground water source like a well. Water is suddenly precious. An adult needs at least 20 liters of clean water per day for drinking, cooking, and basic hygiene. Aside from consumption, you need water for cleaning your home and your clothes, and maybe watering the vegetables in your garden. Living off-grid means water is seen for the precious, life-giving thing it is. You certainly won't leave the tap running when you clean your teeth. You also collect the water you use to wash dishes, clothes, and shower, which is called gray water, and filter it for reuse to water the garden or flush the toilet. But many people living off-grid use composting toilets and use their toilet waste to fertilize the garden. Can you see how living off-grid brings together all the elements? If your basics like water and energy are precious, you waste nothing. If you have to wash your own laundry by hand in water you've heated using wood you've chopped, you're unlikely to have a huge wardrobe full of clothes but a small number of quality items that you treasure and care for. If no one will come to your house to take away your rubbish, you'll be careful not to create unnecessary waste. In order to eat sustainably, you use permaculture methods to grow fruit and vegetables, and maybe even have a few chickens. And you'll learn to preserve foods that are plentiful in the summer to last you through the winter. Most people who live off-grid are not completely self-sufficient, but where possible, they try and collaborate with neighbors and like-minded small businesses to provide for the needs they can't supply themselves. But you know what? In making this series, I learned a lot. I learned sustainable living is complicated and requires quite a lot of thought and research. But I also began, in these final episodes, to understand something a bit deeper. You can start from the feeling. You don't need to immediately change everything today or even this year, but start feeling today. You don't have to chop wood to heat and light your home, but live as if you did. Use energy as if it were created by your own labor. Turn off all the lights and devices you don't need. When you clean your teeth or take a shower, pretend that you drew the water from your own well. When you cook a meal, imagine that it was your chickens who laid the eggs and the vegetables came from your garden. When you get dressed in the morning, pretend that you made the clothes yourself. Imagine it's a close friend or a family member who'll be collecting your waste, and try to keep the amount small so it isn't hard for them to carry. Every aspect of sustainability makes sense if we really feel connected to everyone else. And really, this is how we make the world a better place. Start by imagining, and then change to match your imagination. Imagine that we're all family, because we are. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Learn English series. We're coming to the end of this particular series now, but I'll be back again soon with something new for you. Subscribe to watch more.